With all of the class changes, hero talents and updates and reworks that are coming to the classes in the War Within, I have to honestly say that it was the first time in a long time, probably since Legion, that Mythic Plus was looking really appealing to me. A lot of the classes look redonkulously fun in dungeon environments, so I've been keeping tabs on podcasts, I've been watching Dratnos, I've been watching Max, I've been looking at a lot more PvE POVs to see what is going on exactly with Mythic Plus and to see what some of their grievances are, some of their problems with the mode are. And one of the biggest complaints that has been ongoing is kind of like this disarmament of survivability. Basically, that healing is too high to the point where healer and the role of that trinity, right, healer, DPS, and tank, is becoming kind of trivial, and it's almost like you're just a subpar DPS as a healer that has to do all the mechanics for the group, while the DPS goes zug zug big AoE. And I think Blizzard agrees with that feedback from a lot of the Mythic Plus community, and they are now doing their best to adjust and disarm some of those cooldowns, which will have implications on PvP as well, because I think PvPers have the same sentiment that defensives are too high in some places, survivability is too high on some classes, matches can last too long, battleground engagements, nobody takes damage and nobody dies. So this is kind of actually an overarching problem to the game as a whole. And in this update that I found today, they're doing big tank tuning, and it seems like they're going to be doing ongoing. But there have been some, concerns, because in the recent Mythic Plus tuning, they added a lot of area of effect abilities to mobs, and melee DPS have become a lot more undesirable because it's harder for them, obviously, if they're clustered up, to avoid a lot of these mechanics. And now seemingly this is viewed as like a tank nerf, which I don't know if that's like maybe mislabeling on what this is, because they're not deliberately trying to make people suffer more. They're trying to make the healer role more engaging, right? So I don't know if like this could be flipped on the other way, but it's definitely perceived at the moment as like a massive tank nerf. So I'm curious to see what exactly it is that they're going to be doing. They're coming in with making reductions to tank durability and self-healing. Now, I personally kind of find it a little memey that like a tank can like solo a boss. I remember doing Black Recold and in Legion, and Mez on a Blood Death Knight soloed the last boss because we just couldn't do the mechanics of like moving out of the pie chart thing at the end with the green pies slices, and he could just solo the final boss. He didn't even need us. And I mean, it was like a cool moment, but like at the same time, should you be entirely self-sustainable at the highest level of PvE difficulty as a tank? I feel like it's kind of pushing it, and it's definitely trivializing the healers if it is the case where you can do that. So with the introduction of Dragonflight talent systems and season over season changes, tanks in World of Warcraft have become extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. Their active defenses can mitigate high percentages of incoming damage, and they have strong self-healing. Today, in the hardest content in the game, many tanks can sustain themselves without much assistance from healers. In some cases, we've seen it become optimal to do group content without a healer at all. So this is what I mean. Like, is that good that it's like that? I don't really think that it is. I think that the Trinity, the healer role, needs to become more pivotal, and the healer has more control over the group in terms of their survivability. I think it would be also less frustrating in PvP as well if DPS had a little bit less personal responsibility in maintaining their health. Like when I'm playing Cataclysm PvP, for example, it's almost entirely the healer that keeps me alive in an arena match. But when I'm playing retail arena, I can sustain myself, like on boomkin to boomkin, right? I can sustain myself with my own cooldowns for a very, 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 very long time. And then when I've run out of my cooldowns, then it becomes less. But there's a lot of responsibility on the DPS to be able to keep themselves alive, so much so that it's like 50-50. It's like 50% the healer's job to keep you alive, and 50% your job as the DPS to keep yourself alive. And I feel like putting more of that responsibility, more of that role back into the healer specifically for the group would make that role feel more like it used to and feel more core to what the healer was. World of Warcraft is an MMO, and its multiplayer aspects are a major strength. Group content is extremely rewarding when players performing different roles come together to overcome a challenge. We want to reinforce the importance of healer role and work towards gameplay where tanks and healers collaborate to reduce the damage the tank is taking and to restore the tank's lost health. Tank durability can cause some other problems as well, especially in challenging endgame content that we want to work towards improving. Enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks, but if it's increased too much, it gets spiky and puts tanks in significant danger in if their defenses ever drop. This can lead to tanks getting killed rapidly, seemingly out of nowhere. We feel this is unsatisfying, would prefer tank damage to generally be evenly distributed, but still threatening over time. This is the difference between, this is like the overlap of PvP and PvE that I was talking about, where like big spike damage, you know, and then be like, whoa, I don't know what happened, and then like, whereas attrition healing, where people stay at lower health for a little bit longer period of time, builds up more intensity throughout an engagement, whether it's PvE or PvP, and it seems like that's what they're thinking as well. And I think this could actually be really good for the game overall as a whole, although this post is, you know, right now at the moment being received a little bit negatively. I think it's kind of maybe the risk that you need to take in order to make the role feel like it used to. If tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against high burst damage. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up the threat to other group members. To address the above, we're making reductions to tank durability and self-healing. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and parties take while retaining the challenge of keeping them alive over time. We'll take those changes into account in encounter tuning as well. This also probably means tank specs in world PvP will be less obnoxious. As somebody who's, you know, had done that in the past, tanks are ridiculously powerful in world PvP. Probably like the best role that you could possibly be. This is probably going to take them down a couple of steps. Tanks will take more overall damage, but shouldn't die significantly more often. To increase the overall damage tanks take and their reliance on healers, are primarily increasing the percentage of damage they take after mitigation from steady damage sources like physical attacks, or making fewer reductions to each class's defenses against burst damage or other threats that are currently more likely to be lethal to them. Encounters will be tuned with this in mind, so the character of tank damage changes, but the lethality of it doesn't significantly increase. So they want you dying more frequently. They just want the healer to feel like they have something to do. You know, they don't want your HP to be at 100% or 0. They want it to be, you know, sometimes in the middle, so the healer has something to do. And I don't really think that that's that bad, because I feel like that's probably what the healer wants, is to be like, yay, I get to triage and I get to do something. Tank damage intake should be steady but not too fast. One of our goals for these changes is to smooth out the rate tanks take damage to reduce surprise, spiky deaths. Healers should have time to respond to tank health, and tanks should have time to use self-heals like Word of Glory or Celestial Brew. For some classes, we're increasing their passive defenses to compensate for decreases to more active or reactive defensive mechanics. Tank busters will still create challenging moments that reward tanks for planning and smart use of cooldowns. I think that's good. I mean, having easily readable mechanics, like a big swinging attack that you know you need to activate a big block to avoid, that's a good mechanic for a tank to be active for, but it shouldn't be like every auto attack is doing that to you because you're invincible and they have to, or you don't take damage, right? So being able to balance it and have it incorporated, it's good that they're keeping track of this. Tanks will have strong answers to threats or periods of danger, but less sustained self-healing. Tanks should have autonomy over their own survival and will still have cooldowns or emergency self-heals like Renewal or Impending Victory, but the healing of continuous effects like Elun's Favored or Indomitable are reduced, so tanks must have more of a partnership with healers to restore their missing health once it's lost. Healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. Healers play a critical role in keeping tanks alive, is a part of what they bring to the table. However, healers contribute to the success of groups in many ways, especially in dungeons. They sustain the group, dispel harmful effects, and respond to burst damage, all while doing mechanics. Tank healing should not demand so much that it interferes with their other roles. It may take some iteration to get the balance right on this, where healers feel essential to tank survival with their attention, but not overly demanded by it. So this is going to be an ongoing thing where they're gonna switch the knobs a bit and be like, okay, healers have to like constantly spam heal the tank so much that everything else is falling apart and they can't do anything else. And so this is going to be an ongoing thing. This shouldn't be seen as oh my god, they just flipped the table and now it's ruined and we can't put it back. I don't think at all. Tank gameplay should not significantly change or require actions like kiting to survive. I kind of agree with this. Maybe it's okay to have like a mechanic on like a certain mob or a pull or an affix or something where it's like certain mobs you do need to kite. But having it be every pull like Demon Hunter tanks have for a long time, where they just don't even hold it, they just run and the mobs just chase them and they're not even really tanking the entire time. I've never really liked that mechanic. We're happy that more players are enjoying playing tanks with their friends in pickup groups. There are a lot of demands on tanks, such as learning Mythic Plus routes, leading groups, and knowing what trash abilities are particularly dangerous. The gameplay of standing toe-to-toe with groups of enemies and the tactics you've learned to survive should continue to be effective. Okay, that doesn't really talk about the kiting, other than like I don't think they want them to kite. Obviously, they want feedback on this. This is something that they're going to reiterate on if it ends up not working out. I would imagine similarly to when they presented the new affixes that were going to be completely changing the game. with like buffing bleed damage and all this other stuff, and everybody was really like, hey, we don't really like that. And like, okay, we agree, and we'll take out these other ones that you said we should take out because we agree with that as well. So I'm sure this is going to be like an ongoing discussion. They've got the official class changes as well for this going in here. All character stamina has been increased by 60% as part of the overall adjustment to pace of healer gameplay. This increases the relative value of abilities that heal a percentage of a character's maximum health. Many of these ability changes are to counteract that relative change. For instance, the percentage health that Frenzy Regeneration restores has been reduced by about a third, but the amount of health it restores has remained the same. So these look like they're more likely to be all compensatory. They're just because stamina is going up. This stamina increase is like, could either make the game absolutely remarkable or just totally wreck it. And I'm saying from everything, battlegrounds, arenas, maybe solo, like I'm very, this is like the biggest thing that's going on in the expansion as far as class changes. Death Strike is a powerful ability that allows Blood Death Knights to mitigate a percentage of any form of damage taken in the last 5 seconds. In a way, Death Strike works like a retroactive shield block. Instead of reducing damage up front, it mitigates the damage you took from a hit by healing you. If used in succession, Death Strike can affect a single hit multiple times, which would be comparable to blocking a hit, then going back in time and blocking it again. In some cases, restoring yourself to higher health than when you started. In the War Within, we're changing Death Strike to only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given event once, to make it scale more like other tank mechanics. Now, is this going to affect Death Strike on other classes, or are there specs like on Holy and Frost, or is this Death Strike only Blood? Because Death Strike's available to all of them, and this is a little vague. Because that would definitely affect the DPS specs a lot as well. We're also reducing runic power generation somewhat and reducing some of the mitigation Death Knights get from high uptime cooldowns like Enfeeble and Dancing Rune Weapon, but increasing armor from Bone Shield. Overall, Death Knights should take damage more smoothly, and they will remain one of the strongest tanks for encounters with high magic or periodic damage. Death Strike can now only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage from one attack. A new aura, Coagulating Blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate the value of next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value as a flat amount, and the number of stacks shows it as a percentage of your current health. Interesting. Blood Shield's cap is now 50% of the Death Knight's maximum health. Previously it was 100, and the cap is no longer temporarily increased. This should not affect how much blood Death Knights are able to they're able to generate, actively tanking. But will reduce how large a barrier they are able to accumulate while off tanking. Okay, Rune of the Fallen Crusader is only healing you for 4% down from 6. These are probably all just compensating. This is not gonna. I don't think any percentage change is too big of a deal. Runic Attenuation, 3 runic power down from 5, and Enfeeble reduces damage you take from 12 down from 15. Null Magic reduces magic damage taken from 8 down from 10. Bone Shield armor increased by 100% of strength, so you're getting more armor. Leeching Strike now heals for 0.25% of maximum health down from 0.5. Dancing Rune Weapon increases parry chance. These are all like the 30% changes that they're talking about. Each Dancing Rune Weapon generates 3 runic power when mirroring Heart Strike. Everlasting Bond increases Dancing Rune Weapon's duration by 6 down from 8. Blood Drinker reduces the damage enemies deal to you by 15 down from 20. And Bone Storm heals you for 2% of your health down from 3 up to a maximum of 10 from 15. And Bone Storm damage, though, is getting buffed. So they just want to smooth out the time in between. They don't want you getting one shot by like high physical damage dealing sources, I think, by increasing your armor. And they're just trying to even out the damage scope across the board so that healers have something to do for you. Like Death Strike for Death Knights, Soul Fragments give Demon Hunters strong recovery against any type of damage, as well as strong self-healing because Demon Hunters consume Soul Fragments steadily. We're not changing the rules for how often they can affect the damage event. We're increasing Vengeance overall damage taken by weakening the damage reductions of talents like Void Reaver and Illuminated Sigils, while keeping the power of core abilities like Soul Fragments and Demon Spikes. They will continue to be one of the stronger tank classes at self-healing and surviving magic damage. It seems like Death Knight and Demon Hunter have like a strong competition with each other, as far as like what specifically they're supposed to be experts in mitigating, which is kind of a bit of a problem as far as like deciding which one you should bring to a group, I think. Live by the Glaive now restores 2% down from 4. Thick Skin increases your stamina by 60 down from 65. Demonic Wards is only going to reduce physical and magic damage by 8 down from 10. Soul Cleave healing reduced by 20. Frailty heals you for 8% down from 10. Void Reaver reduces damage you take from targets affected by Frailty from 3 down from 4. Illuminated Sigils grants 12% parry down from 15. Down in Flames reduces Firebrand cooldown by 12 down from 15. Metamorphosis increases your maximum health by 40 down from 50, and Dark Glare Boon now refreshes 50 to 30%. Fell Devastation's cooldown was 20 to 40, and refunds 15 to 30 was 20 to 40. So these all look like nerfs for Demon Hunter, and because they kind of are, but some of them are just compensating for the fact that stamina is going up, but it's so that the overall gameplay can improve. Guardian Druid with high armor and iron for uptime. Druid should be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. We're slightly increasing the damage they take from all types of damage and balancing the power of their self-healing. We're also reducing the durations of some of their cooldowns to make timing their use more important. Frenzied Regen is only going to heal for 20, down from 32%. Again, is this affecting all druids? Iron Fur is increasing armor by 112 agility, down from 120. Renewal is only 20% max health, down from 30. Reinvigoration reduces Frenzied Regen's cooldown by 10 to 20, down from 20 to 40. Earth Ward reduces damage taken by 25, down from 30. Survival of the Fittest reduces cooldowns by 12 to 24, down from 15 to 30. Tooth and Claw reduces damage taken by 12, down from 15. After the Wildfire triggers, spending 300 rage, up from 200. Ursock's Fury grants a shield equal to 25% of the Thrash and Maul damage, down from 45. This is stuff like in World PvP, you probably knows this type of stuff. Elune's Favored heals you for 25% of the arcane damage dealt, down from 40. That's a significant one. Rage of the Sleeper duration reduced to 8, down from 10. Rage of the Sleeper damage taken reduced to 20 from 25. Rage of the Sleeper leech decreases to 20 from 25. Pulverized duration reduced to 8 from 10. Ursock's Guidance reduces the cooldown of Incarnation. Guardian of Ursock by 1 for each 25 rage. It was previously 20. Seems like our Guardian Druid is getting hit really hard here on these changes. Brewmaster. Healers have more time to heal monks than other tanks because stagger spreads out the damage they take over time. Our goal is for monks to take a little more damage overall than other tanks to offset this effect. However, we feel their overall magic damage mitigation is a little low compared to other tanks and are improving it somewhat by buffing stagger and its value against magic. To increase their physical damage taken overall, we're primarily reducing the dodge granted by Elusive Brawler and some of their other talents. Brewmaster's balance increases monks' armor by 50, up from 25, but Elusive Brawler's chance to dodge is reduced. So instead of completely mitigating an attack, that damage will just be reduced on you instead, so that healers have more healing to do on you. Celestial Fortune heals you for 70% of the amount healed, down from 80. Amount of damage staggered increased by 8. Percentage of magic damage staggered increased to 58 from 45. Dance of the Wind chance to dodge reduced to 5 from 10 for Brewmasters only. See, this says Brewmaster only, so it makes me think a lot of those other changes are going to affect the other specs. Yulon's Grace grants an absorb shield equal to 1% of your max health, down from 2. Healing Winds restores 10% max health, down from 15. Staggering Strikes, healing reduced by 28%. Spirit of the Ox, chance to summon a healing sphere reduced by 40%. Elixir of Determination, healing reduced to 30% of recently purified damage was 50, or a minimum of 8% of your max health, down from 20. Celestial Brew, healing reduced by 10. And Pretense of Instability grants 10% dodge, down from 15. Now, you do still have some dodge. It just seems like your likelihood of getting it is a lot lower, but it could still probably happen. Protection Paladin. And these could have changes as well as possibly for tanks as like flag carriers and the new solo queue battleground changes. So these changes can affect the whole game for sure. Paladins have a balance of good defenses against both physical and magic. They can be in danger if they lose the defensive power of Standing and Consecration, or if the armor bonus from Shield of the Righteous drops. So we're not reducing any of their passive physical defensives like armor or block like druids. Paladins have a high uptime on their defensive cooldowns, so we're pulling back some of their durations to make timing their use more important. We would like Paladins to have slightly more self-healing, so we are increasing the power of Word of Glory. That actually makes you more OP in PP. I think buffing your Word of Glory actually makes you more OP in PP. Shield of the Righteous increases your armor by 150, down from 170. Damage reduction effect while standing in Consecrate Mastery is reduced by 20%. Sanctified Plate armor increase no longer applies to bonus armor from Shield of the Righteous. Improved Holy Shield increases your chance to block spells by 8, down from 10. Dusk buff from Of Dusk and Dawn reduces the damage taken by 4, down from 5. Word of Glory is getting a 10% healing increase. Sentinel's duration reduced to 16 from 20. Eye of Tears duration reduced to 6 from 9. Righteous Protector, Holy Power reduces cooldowns by 1.5 to 2. So you want that like big attack moment from a mob. You gotta be more conscious of when that moment is instead of activating it like 20 seconds in advance and it still just stays up. Be a little bit more conscious, but it lasts 16 seconds, still lasts 6. It's still a lot of time, I think. It's honestly not that big of a deal, I think, for Prop Paladin. For Protection Warrior, warriors are the strongest tank against physical damage, though they can be vulnerable to magic or periodic damage. In this round of changes, we're increasing their damage taken across the board by reducing the power of defensive stance. Warriors have some strong heals that scale at maximum health, like Indomitable and Impending Victory, so we're reducing the power of those abilities to compensate for the 60% increase to stamina. Pain and Gain now heals 2%, down from 3.5. Impending Victory now heals 20, down from 30, and this is a change that's likely going to affect all warriors, because that one didn't say, that one said Brewmasters only, and the DPS specs are really strong. Defensive stance is only 16% mitigation, down from 20, so that's definitely a big implication in PvP. For other specs other than just prot. Fight Through the Flames cause defensive stance to reduce magic damage you take by 6, up from 5. Into the Fray increases haste up to 8, down from 10. Punish reduces damage enemies deal to you by 2, down from 3. Enduring Alacrity increases stamina and armor by 8, down from 10. Indomitable increases your maximum health by 6, down from 10, and heals you for 1% of your maximum health per 20 rage spent. Defender's Aegis reduces shield wall cooldown by 60, up from 30. An Impenetrable Wall causes shield slam to generate an additional 4 rage, up from 3. Reduces the remaining cooldown shield wall by 6, 6, up from 5, and Disrupting Shout cooldown has been increased to 90 from 75. So this is some pretty significant nerfs to Warrior that are likely going to be felt on other classes as well. So you can tell, like, this is going to take a lot, man. This is a huge undertaking that Blizzard is trying to do as far as like reworking the game away from this one-shot meta, whether it's PvE or PvP, and I'm wishing them the best of luck in it, because I think that the gameplay will improve across everything, BG's arena, dungeons, raids, whatever it may be, if they can accomplish this. So I think this is a worthy goal to go after, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of frequent tuning, a lot of testing, and a lot of feedback, so make sure to give yours. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts about this, and other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.